Yes, Gauri ma'am, we are live now.
Okay, okay. Thanks. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another
Hello.
nice another session of Dil Ki Baatein with me, Gouri Dange, writer and counselor. Um, this week we have a theme which is on the face of it, it seems as if it's an odd a puzzle of a theme. As we go along, I'll read the question and you'll know where it comes from. And some of you will recognize that this is maybe not a much talked about situation, but is very commonly prevalent. So it's about silent divorce, how to be, can we be, and how to be together but apart. Silent divorce. So here's the question. It's come from Jyotsna, Kamlaji. Kamlaji, okay. It says, Gauri ma'am, we have been married for 35 years. Our two children live outside India with children of their own. We have not had a good marriage, but managed all these years so that children grow up with stability. They have never seen any open fights, but they are aware that there is poor compatibility between us. Now it is too late to separate as we are aging and expected to look after each other. But I feel that whatever life is still left for us, we should try to get some joy in our own separate ways that suit us, even if we have to live together. Social and spiritual activities, vacations, food preferences, hobbies, money spending decisions, travel to children. Is it possible at this stage to find a way to carry on different paths without an open separation at this stage, which would cause too much shock, wagging tongues, and awkwardness for our children? Please guide, Kamal J. So remember, if some of you were there for that episode, we've had a similar question, but not outright saying that I want to find a way to really stop the pretense of being a couple, and yet uh, not rock the boat, as they say, not take drastic action, but more looks like what she's looking at. What I think we should look at is a more internal, quieter arrangement where whatever you did cooperated on because you were a couple, because you were bringing up a family, which of these things you can let go? And instead of convergent paths or highly divergent paths, can you forge some kind of parallel track? Um, let's see. She says, is it possible? So to answer, first of all, that question, yes, I think it is possible. Um, earlier generations, some of you may have known them in your own families, people you knew, have managed this kind of thing without ever spelling anything out. For years, have uh, stayed with each other, maybe even looked after each other, but had very separate lives, particularly so after the children have grown up and left. Uh, Maybe in a way it was a little easier in earlier generations when families were not so nuclear, when there were a whole bunch of other people in the household. So, so you were not forced to be just now, once the children have left, just you and your spouse head to head with each other. Now we are much more nuclear, and that's why something has to be particularly put in place if a couple wants to do this thing of declaring, not just let it ride as it is. As I said, not converging, not diverging, but stay on parallel tracks. But for anything to stay on parallel tracks, there is work involved. you have to put in place certain things so that there isn't divergence or convergence or collisions. So, the expectations and the assumptions about your coupledom, about a couple, which people just accept and move along, which may be working out fine for other people, but as she has written, not for her anymore. This thing of doing everything as a couple. What she really wants to know, and I believe that it can be architectured, where you keep some of the things, but you decide to let go of several things where you are in a bit of a three-legged race. You're just tied together on certain fronts when you don't really, neither of you enjoy or cherish that aspect of your life with the person. Uh, so, this silent divorce, as it is called, for seniors particularly, uh, is an emotional separation without a formal legal divorce. And I think it involves gradually distancing oneself emotionally from a spouse. Uh, but I think in managing it in such a way that your expectations from each other, the distancing is not just talking less or seeing each other less, not allowing a whole ice cold block between you, but definitely distancing yourself from what now you expect from the other, what you think is wanting in your relationship, and to very calmly say that parts of these things I don't need to keep on expecting from a person who 35 years, she says 35 years is not capable of giving it to me. I'm sure her husband also has many such things which he feels doesn't work in this marriage. Then why the insistence that this couple provide each other with sustenance, nourishment, everything that's expected to come out of one relationship? Even in a healthy relationship, I would say it's an unrealistic demand after some years for everything to come out from the spouse, only the spousal relationship. Whether it is appreciation, whether it is entertainment, whether it is tenderness, whether it is intellectual stimulation, whether it's even food. Uh, Slowly, people age differently and want different timings, different stuff to eat. Beyond the point, if your life is the way she's describing it, why keep these trappings and both be unhappy about what you're eating, when you're eating, when you're traveling, what entertainment you're consuming? So, but how do we let's understand what would go into the process if you now don't just drift apart, but intentionally, again, I'm using that word, intentionally plan what things you will do together and what things clearly we don't have to keep up the pretense. So, firstly, I think would be an internal acceptance that there is an emotional disconnect, and let it be. It cannot be in the blame mode. You never, not harping on the past. You were never there for me, or you never understood me. You've always let me down. Suppose you drop all of those tools. That's the first step in a silent divorce, where first of all you drop all the things that the lists that we hold in our hearts of what didn't happen. There is also another list of what did happen, all the wrongs you did to me, and to just set that aside, knowing that it's not going to come from here. And so an emotional disconnect now, which is to disengage now. Maybe there's been a disconnect, which was adrift, going by adrift, but now you disengage actively. So, for example, if you have a spouse who refuses to, who does not, is reluctant to get up and come to the breakfast table at a certain time. Then instead of hanging on to that old thing कि दो ही लोग घर में रहते हैं, उसमें एक टाइम पे खाएगा, दूसरा दूसरे टाइम पे खाएगा. How does that, how should that, that's not good. Why? Who defines it? If it's just easier for you to leave each other alone, and one person eats their, little Western breakfast, the other one makes their little Ovaltine or whatever the thing is, or somebody just has a, fruit. And so that they say there's one arena, meal times. It sounds like such a mundane, small thing. But in a relationship that has gone into place where you're not actively seeking each other's company, then why particularly do this? Maybe you can, in fact, the other way around, fix up once a week when you will enjoy a meal together. Something there may be in common which you really like, or a place. And you actively plan that. I'm deliberately not calling it a date or anything coy like that, because here we are looking um, at a restructuring. We're not talking about some Valentine's Day kind of responses. So since at the core of a silent divorce is a sort of gradual, it has come from a gradual erosion of emotional connect. Why not make it more intentional and respectful? In a way, it's more respectful. Instead of so much energy spent in either ignoring each other or accommodating each other or doing something just to keep the peace, to the point where you forget what you really want. And the unit is both are compromising and unhappy on small things like, as I said, when to eat, what to eat. Um, Maybe you have never said to each other, maybe this couple or couple like this has never said, we should split. I should never have married you. Or they have said it and so much water under the bridge is gone also. It's over. But as she describes, now there are two people who live in the same space. Which are the other areas which you can quietly turn away from each other? I'm talking about within them, and then what it would be like to communicate some of this to the children, to the close people. But first, within yourself, what are the things that you respectfully and with great relief let go? Let go. So, and removing the external eye that looks at things and says, some like a third person is watching and saying, Acha, you don't even have a morning tea together. Yes, we don't. Suppose we don't. It's a quiet time. I don't want to talk to this person. I may go to my room and call up my sister and have my morning tea chatting away with my sister. He doesn't have to sit there listening to that. So you reconfiguring uh, how you spend even just ordinary downtime. Mm, separate routines, a decision to maybe even meet, not necessarily socialize as a couple. Here again, you can choose. You might have close friends who still who know what the scene is, but like to meet both of you. You may reduce it to just some of them, and you may without guilt give each other the permission, take the permission yourself to be with your own kind, so to speak. There's no legal separation or dissolution or anything here, and in a way, it's freeing, but it's harder because the couple has to now draw the contours of this separation, separate in under the same roof, and turn it from a sour, what might be a very sour, resigned thing, where both are feeling carried along at a pace sometimes that they're not happy for, either too fast or too slow, and the content of what they do every day, both feeling that they're not living their best life. Whether a whole lot of those things, first of all, can be the priorities can be shifted of what it is that you will and won't do together. Uh, so now that means we are looking at focusing now on individual needs. Earlier, this couple or couples like this have focused on the family need as a collective. Then the children have gone, they focused on the couple needs, meaning perforce it is as a couple. So if it is the man's, what is it nowadays? You have the reunions, 50 years of the batch of something, something. And the man is meeting his friends for reunions. Is it really, people assume that the spouse will come along? This is an area where you could say, I'm not at all interested. I'm not at all interested in your friends. Great for you. Please go. Please go. And the man too then understands that this is not any kind of katti. It's not a form of saying, I'm not talking to you. I'm going to insult you and your friend so that by not showing up. This is not an action taken for a reaction. This we have to importantly note. Not an action taken to get a rise out of anybody. So some of this will have to be talked about. This drift that has happened maybe has happened without talking. Some things, before the situation is upon you, maybe one can negotiate. Saying that, I think when you do this thing, I'll do that thing, I'll be doing something else. Well before, not when tickets are booked and now you're deleting, canceling them and all of that sort of stuff. So, but for that, one step even backwards is for you yourself as individuals to sit and note down broadly what is it that is negotiable and non-negotiable for you. If somebody says you don't have to do anything you don't want to do without any sulking, any awkwardness, what are the first 10 things that you'll put down? That I don't want to do these things. And what are the 10 things you'll put down saying, I want to do these, I don't do them because of him or because of her. It's important, firstly, to know what it is, because in long coupledom, your personalities get almost subsumed in each other's personalities. Sometimes you've forgotten what it is that you like and don't like. But then why be on that kind of sort of slow unhappiness, slow fuse unhappiness? And why not look actively at what you do and don't like? So to focus on your own individual needs now. So I'm saying it can be planned and tabled. Instead of guilt, anger, pretenses, you could do it with some bottom line understanding that you will take care of each other. That you're not doing anything to make the other person feel down or neglected or ignored. But that you're saying that there is a bottom line understanding that we'll take care of each other. But that being there for each other redefined now. Then, so I'm saying there's an internal shift so that you know yourself better instead of just feeling what in Marathi we call vaitag, Ye nahi karna. Arey, I hate doing this so and so thing. Okay, here's your chance to sift, put a chalni and sift which things you really don't like doing and which are okay to let go. And the other person may not even know, or he may know that she doesn't like doing them, but he gets a small advance notice that some things are going to change. She asked about children. See, grown children, can be Indian children especially, can start becoming suddenly very old-fashioned and expect parents to just fall in line. Don't rock the boat. What will my in-laws say because you people are not coming to the same wedding? Children can start forcing you into protocol positions, which is exactly the kind of thing now that you want to reconfigure. Children will have to be sat down and told as mildly as possible. With the primary couple has to absolutely vow that they will not communicate this new arrangement with any kind of bitterness, blame, nothing. In that, there has to be a united front. Where then you present to the children, they're grown people, Just say that we've decided to do certain things on our own, at our own pace. And this could include visits to your children. Maybe you're much happier just going, one parent goes, then another parent goes, if it's possible. Or one goes a little while, or both go together and then one goes elsewhere. To have time just for yourself with your kids and see if they are willing to ac- not accept, but completely understand, not just accept, understand that some new equations are being put into place. Um, I feel this is an area, unless you're really understanding children and who may be very relieved and who have been from when they're quite small, noting that you are kind of, handcuffed to each other, but don't need to be anymore. Might have mature children who see that and support you and don't take sides and are okay with it. Might help you to lead this new equation. That would be great if that is available. Um, that so in an unthinking way, children want you to maintain protocols, not rock the boat. They have their own lives, they have their own children, they don't want to complicate their life. But then you must know that you are not a complication, you're a whole life. You're a whole person with a whole life. You're not just a detail and a complication. And if it's come to this in the way that she has written, then you owe it to yourself and to the person who you are living with, your spouse, to find a new way of being together but apart. I think it's far less corrosive, far less toxic, far more respectful if a couple in this state can come up with a game plan, really a game plan about going ahead, how you're going to go ahead with things. Some of the mundanities, daily things, which are daily irritants, areas in which you feel how inconsiderate this person is, or how you feel dismissed or unaccounted for, pick up some of those areas and separate them first. If you can and can afford to, and you have the space, separate bedrooms to start with, separate bathrooms to start with, if possible, so that you're not unnecessarily intersecting in areas that is a forced kind of cooperation, intimacy also, which you don't, neither of you want. Straight away, I think some of the uh, physical markers can change. Even continuing to share a bedroom is just all, some of it is all to do with habit. What will people think? How will I explain why I don't stay in the same bedroom as my wife? And yet, many of us know, I for sure know, many people of a certain generation who have done it gradually and gracefully long back, being together and apart. Financials is another area where maybe your whatever your arrangements are, but your core spending remains divided, meaning divided between the two of you, and those things are not shaken up. Maybe whether it is the where you stay, um, who works for you, who books for you, electricity, broad consumption patterns. If there is no huge problem with that, maybe that can remain as it is. But one layer of financials can be separated where you stop being answerable to each other about spending. If one of you has always been the purse keeper and the earner and the keeper of the purse, this would need a new kind of discussion. Maybe one person gives the other a budget or X amount of money. But the idea here is to separate it as much as possible, so it's not one more area where every month you're tiptoeing around an issue, every month, or every purchase that you make. Because I think even if one of you is tends to spend more than you should, you've come to that stage where you're not going to change that because he or she said so. You've come into that place where that you're not going to take that input from the person with whom you want this kind of silent divorce. So it's hard work. Now if she's looking at a silent divorce, there's some things that you have to need sit down and note down, jot down, and commit to changing. um, it won't just come. But if the commitment is to do this as non-violently, without making a big splash, and yet quite firmly a new track, then it'll have to be done in these forms. Just take up various areas on which you've intersected, not intersected unhappily, and see which of those just don't need to intersect at all. Uh, I know a couple who's, for example, now anniversaries. I know couples who've never been happy, but it's just become a thing to do. Anniversary aa gaya, everybody goes out, friends are called, cakes are cut, beer is opened, wine is served. Everybody present knows that this is not a thing, but nobody dares to say, nahi karna hai, nahi karna hai. As seniors, I think we've now earned the right, even if your marriage is fine, suppose you feel, I'm done with parties, I'm done with spending so much money, I'm done with gifts, I don't want gifts. And if your children are very enthusiastic and it's part of their tick mark thing too, or it's part of their notion about their parents being happy and together, one can be gentle about it, artistic about it. Uh, Maybe there's just too much water under the bridge for you to say something very strong. You don't want to say, I don't want to do this natak anymore. It's not in that bitter zone. If you're talking about a silent divorce, part of it is a gentle divorce. So, suppose you could give an artistic explanation and say, it's X years since we're married, and I think now I'd be, I don't believe in celebrations of this kind. If you guys have a budget, you're trying to blow it on us, here's a charity that I'm interested in. Give that money in our name to that charity. Where here now you can firmly say that I'm not partaking without getting into a bitter thing of the mutter thing कि अभी ये नाटक क्यों करना है इतने साल तो ऐसा है वैसा है now if you all have grown up, no need to muddy the water if you are looking at a silent divorce. A silent divorce can be a graceful one is what I'm saying here. So for example, if parties is something that you feel, you can children go into this overdrive, children meaning grown children, before you know it a poster is made, people are called, this that. You tell them that make a poster which says, any gifts that you're planning to give us, please to so and so old age home or orphanage or hospital or animal rescue, whatever your thing is. And in this way, you're not refusing, you're not saying, I'm not marking that day at all, but you're not getting dragged along with the old expectations of you as a couple. I think that you can do for yourself without appearing grumpy and nasty about the whole anniversary thing, I would imagine. Uh, so, many things that we do as couples are unquestioningly done. But when a couple comes to this juncture, where a person is writing in and saying, I want to do something differently now. It's not working for me. But inside the umbrella of the structure of being married, still, I want to do something differently. This perforce means that you are awarding yourself as well as your spouse. You're awarding them, yourself and him, the permission to just do away with certain things, joint things. And I would imagine an anniversary celebration is one too. Without declaring, it doesn't have to be as if been a death of a marriage. It's not a death of a marriage. It is a completely new turn that the marriage has taken. Um, it can one thing that I want to add here is that we have to know that we are not obliged to give long, lengthy, complicated explanations to whoever asks us what is going on. Let people realize that's the beauty of silent, the word silent in that silent divorce. That's the beauty of it. That you do not have to issue any press statements to anybody. Your actions will have to be interpreted by people, and those who love you and those who care for you may ask you also, is everything okay? I feel this. You can answer, but there's no manifesto that you have to give out to people. Henceforth, this is the thing, that is the thing. That manifesto is quietly between the two of you. And it'll be awkward for some occasions, once right in the beginning only. How about now showing up for parties alone? Say, or for like I was saying, some reunion, something where it's assumed +1. No, there's no, for certain things, there's going to be no +1. There's just me. And I don't know, I would like you people's opinion on this. It doesn't sound to me like such a shocking and unreasonable thing to put into place for a couple in this situation. There's You've reduced your interaction with each other in the house itself. There's less quality time spent together, less shared activities, less duties also, social duties. So it is a reduced interaction. But then what there is I think the work has to be in that direction of being pleasant and nice and intentional. So if out of 3 meals that you have, whatever number of meals you have together, if now you've decided that it's fine, maybe you can decide 1 meal a week or whatever the frequency in which you intentionally enjoy each other's company, or make something nice, or both order something good, where you're marking the meal not just as a default thing, um, which you are joylessly doing together. I think this is the important thing in this silent divorce. It sounds funny to say the word joy along with this silent divorce. But yeah, anyway, we're doing things in a very joyless way. Large chunks of your couple activities were joyless. I think at least if you can take away the joylessness, maybe it's not full of joy. Maybe your joyful things are only with your own separate pursuits. But at least the sort of muddy kind of joylessness in day-to-day interaction is something you can award yourself. I feel it is to be awarded in this kind of in architecturing separate lives like this. Um, when I was saying that that focusing on individual needs is very much part of the definition of a silent divorce, can be a bit of a minefield, because here's where you could go back to old complaints about each other, you know, and you could take the advice or the consultation of a counselor who might help you, any third person. It may even be a sensitive child of yours, a grown child who's sensitive to the situation. But maybe you get in a third person along with whom you sit, and you decide which of these things are suddenly going to now end. Which of the assumptions that you'll be doing X, Y, and Z together is going to end. Again, not written in stone, can go back to some of the things, but at least to try it on for size if you're looking at a, a, a quick trial run of this concept of the silent divorce. I was also, I was struck by, in her, I'll just go back to her question. Um, she says, whatever life is still left for us, we should try to get some joy in our own separate ways, in the ways that suit us, even if we have to live together. So, see, there is a have to. um Ideally, maybe don't want to, but there is an acceptance that you have to. Um, then within that, um, she mentions social, spiritual activities, entertainment, vacations, food preferences, hobbies, money spending decisions, time spent with children and their children. All of these things now are going to be renegotiated. And to me, it sounds like these are all areas where they or people like them seem to be really, as I said in the beginning, in a three-legged race, tied together for things which um, uh, they don't need to. They don't need to. Nobody has to take it personally. If one of the people says, no, this thing I won't come for. I think it's very important in our senior years to give a lot of rope, lot of space. Maybe physical space, we don't have maybe physical space, as I said, these, separate bedrooms if you need, or a, area which you can use the way you want. Maybe you don't have the luxury for that, but definitely space here we can give each other, um, in our senior years. And in that sense, I think this word I've used about, she's asked whether can we be together but apart? Is there a way that people can be together but apart? Most certainly, yes. The answer is yes. Uh, other generations have done it by maybe by default or under the radar kind of, because as I said, it was part of a larger family. You didn't have to explain yourself. A lot of activities became, as people aged, the women did one thing and the men did one thing. Now it is possibly more, it will stick out more why this couple has come, only he has come. And I think it's in our hands to decide uh, how to live this, by also avoiding, one last thing I want to say, avoiding the temptation of letting your bitterness or your disappointment, which must be there, that you've come to a place where your marriage is on this kind of drift. Avoid, if somebody asks you, or you want to tell somebody, no, I'll come, or I won't come, he'll come, to avoid the temptation of saying something bitter, sarcastic, funny, to not look at your own this arrangement as some ugly compromise with life. That's one last thing I want to say. This is how you project it, is not just about what front you put up, but it's exactly how you project it to people is how you will live it, how you will action this uh, silent separation, silent divorce. The word divorce is very provocative here, but it is a word that's used, but it's a silent separation, together but apart. Okay, I'd like to throw this open to anybody who has something to say about this. I remember the earlier question that had come, the person was talking about a more toxic atmosphere where they weren't drifting so much as sledging, saying not very pleasant things to each other, mocking each other's friends, mocking each other's choices, TV programs. They had something to say to others where the atmosphere had grown toxic. None of us need to lead that. None of us need to lead that kind of life, unless one is negatively invested in with some senior couples are, in just making the other person feel bad and yourself feel bad all the time. This is not that. What here we are talking about is a much more uh, coming back from the brink of such things, I think, is what she's looking at doing before things turn, um, you know, so toxic. Okay, throwing this open to people. Anyone has anything to add, please do. You can unmute and tell us or ask anything anybody has to ask. Hmm? Sunita, is your hand up?
Yeah, I think it's a good solution that you have thought of and provided. Think it. She must have felt quite hopeless in it,
Hmm.
wondering how to
Hmm.
navigate it. Now,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
like you said, it involves a lot of work, right?
Yes,
Uh,
yeah.
Listing down the different uh,
Negotiables,
spheres.
non-negotiables.
Yeah, negotiable then.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
like I mean, it's much more emotionally fraught, but it's like, we remember we were talking about selling an old place that doesn't work for you anymore,
yeah,
downsizing, all those
yeah.
things involve work. Um,
Mm.
why not invest that kind of thought in a relationship that could continue? We're all looking at longevity, all of us. Um,
Mm.
Thanks to medical science, and we
Right.
are, but we are seeing people living up to 99, 95, 104. Uh,
Mm.
so what I'm assuming, she says they've been married 35 years. You
Yeah.
could you could easily live another 20 years with the same person. Do you want to be, you know, in a sort of in this
Yeah.
joyless place?
Joyless life. No,
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think as you grow older, you know that time is running out, and
Yes, she
you
says
know
that. Yeah, yeah,
there's only just. I think a lot of us, if a lot of people believe in rebirth, and there's always another chance to make good. Like, but that's
yeah.
really not
Of
true.
the
No,
here and
you
now.
just
Yeah.
have this one life,
No, no, and
and as
rebirth
you,
कुछ भी होगा पर next 20 years का क्या? If you're going to
yeah,
live another 20 years.
I know, yeah, and as you grow older, you become more aware of yourself and what you need and what you want.
Yeah, yeah.
And when it is so different from your spouse's,
Hmm.
there's
Hmm.
really no joy in, uh, you know, all the
In
time it's a compromise, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's self-denial of a kind which is not even not even that one of them is. This is not a situation where one of them is flying high, doing everything he or she wants, living their
Hmm.
best life, and the other person is
No.
getting dragged along. It's not that.
Hmm.
There seems to be a sort of desultory disconnect, unhappiness
Even the
between
other
both.
person is
Yeah,
equally
yeah,
unhappy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's very important for children also to recognize this
Yeah.
and accept this, and maybe face whatever little bit of social awkwardness there may be.
Right.
I mean, as parents, we accept and face our children divorcing. Uh,
Hmm.
you know, that also comes with its awkwardness and stigma and all of that. But you put your children first and say this is what they want to do.
Hmm.
So it cuts both ways in this sense. So
It's a very, very awkward business, no? This divorce and my goodness.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Less so now, less so now.
Yeah.
Little more accepted, meaning people move on from it. In the sense, other people who are, uh, watching,
Hmm.
there may be a shock phase and awkward phase and all of that, but people get on with it. Families regroup. People make
Hmm.
blended families. It happens. It happens at least now
Yeah.
more. Yeah. I think the one thing that which are saying that to the younger people who are watching you, say whether it's your children or anybody else, um, you're just old people. It may be like you're just old people. Come on now, get along. Yeah, now there's so little life left. But for the person leading that life, there's lots of life left. Every day is a
Yes,
whole, lifetime.
yes,
Happy.
yes.
I'm saying if you're
And
unhappy.
more so when you reach this age, no? Because
Yeah.
there's so
Yeah.
much more you feel there is to discover. Because all
Yeah.
your responsibilities are over. I mean, the kids
Yes.
are not
Yes.
there.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And to not feel bad and down
Hopeless.
on yourself. Yeah.
Ah.
That previous one some weeks ago where it seemed to me almost like the person was enjoying putting down, gaslighting the other person, where that had now become the focus
Hmm.
of the spouses,
Hmm.
And I remember then also telling him that, life is just too short for now to invest in this negative investment in feeling and making people feel bad.
Hmm.
So this year, I don't think it's gone into that zone, but it's been of a long-standing chronic incompatibility. Maybe not deep unhappiness, but she's talked
Hmm.
about compatibility that's been there long,
Hmm.
incompatibility that's been there long.
Hmm.
So she says, without an open separation, which would cause too much shock and wagging tongues. See, we still
Very
the
true.
issue, yeah, and
It's an
awkwardness for our
issue.
children. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. I mean, it's more that she's not ready to face that kind of thing, no?
yeah.
Wagging
I think
tongues and
the tone in which she's written is as if it's a germ of an idea that's formed in her head. Okay, maybe this can
hmm.
be done differently, but
Hmm.
uh, I mean, before somebody writes off to somebody like this, I wonder if I'm sure you sort of tried it out the, run the idea past trusted people, uh,
Hmm.
or maybe not at all. I don't know. But where you wonder whether am I even thinking on the right track? You know?
Hmm. I
See,
suppose you can't
Gauri,
compare it to
uh,
a divorce, no? Sorry,
yeah.
somebody
sorry.
So,
was speaking.
sorry. No, 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 carry on. So,
No, no,
I just,
yeah.
the Sudha here, I just came in late. But
Ah,
so I just had a thought just now when we discussed whether, we should discuss it with others.
hmm,
Many a times, I feel this is such a delicate, I wouldn't say a problem, but when you discuss it out, you might get too many opinions, do you think, Gauri? And then you are stuck. Now, you know what you want to do. Maybe,
yeah,
you're settled for a silent one.
yeah.
But an open discussion sometimes, at this stage of life, it really confuses you because,
Yes, it could. Yes, yes, yeah.
Hmm.
Especially, see, if people are invested in saying things like, "अरे ये घर घर की कहानी है,"
exactly. Correct.
don't take it too seriously. Do this, do that. For people who want to, uh, out of good intentions, but who want to just shut the chapter and say, like, don't open that book. Don't open it only.
Just
You
let
know.
it go, let be as it
Yeah,
is. Don't think too
yeah,
much, and
yeah. Just don't think too much. While in this thing, I feel it's important to think and not just keep
yes,
on thinking, but think which leads to you to some
the solution.
new way of doing things. New way of doing
Yeah.
things. Yeah, yeah. And if the other person, one thing I forgot to mention, if the other person is, you think, not going to at all come on board with this, then it's a lonely path. But then you must mentally yourself be able to also, without discussion and without any mutuality in it,
Hmm.
start carving out your own paths.
Hmm.
Start carving out your own, at least on some key things.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm.
You know, like I know couples who say that it's so expensive to go and stay with your children abroad, the visas, the this, the that, and then you go there and you're just taking your own glumness from here there, and you're just covering up your issues, while both parent, both the husband and the wife, can have a great time on their own with their own children, separately, a whole different thing. They're not accounting for each other. This is a thing to, to toss into the mix and say, maybe we do this.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Uh, yeah, I think uh, for this, basically what you said just now, it's wonderful to understand that I need my space and I would rather be alone with my children.
Hmm.
uh, an open communication is so important, because somewhere the spouse, like the partners, don't have an
Yeah.
open communication at times, where this point is never discussed.
Yeah. That's what, that it's a problem at all, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
the topic of
Yes.
discussion is not there.
Hmm,
Yeah.
hmm, hmm. It will take its, especially the one who proposes the change,
Yeah.
there's going to be a little dhakka to the system. But if both find themselves in a place where you feel like, why not? Yeah, actually, why not? You know, and one doesn't say that I'm going to leave you behind to Sado and I'm going to do my life. You don't put it like that at all. That's not your
Mm.
intention, you know. So it'll have to come from a place of solutions and not just uh, chakki pisoing of the problems.
Hmm, hmm.
I may use the phrase. Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else has anything else to say? Please contribute. Krish, you're going to put anyone wants to put in questions, put it on the WhatsApp that Krish will put up on the chat. Although I think he must have put them already, the details of where to write. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, shall we stop
That's
here?
a nice question.
Nobody has anything
Yeah.
else to say? Add? What, Sunita?
Uh, no, I was just thinking there's, as you have different interests,
Hmm.
not on the divorce, but even otherwise, when you have different interests
Yeah.
and you want to go ahead with that,
Yes.
so there's a feeling of guilt that comes in,
Yeah.
that there
Yes.
is this presupposed thing that
Yeah.
in your
Maybe
senior years you've got to do things together, and
together. Yeah.
so
Mm.
then how do you navigate that?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
that's also an issue,
It is those notions only that have to go. It's a fortunate situation if both want to look at doing parallel things. But if one has not projected what they want to do, they just know they're unhappy, but they have no
Mm,
plans of what they want to do.
mm,
Then it's difficult. Then there's an artificial sense of being left behind instead of being free
mm.
to go on those parallel tracks. Artificial
Right.
sense of being ditched.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Mhm.
so it may, if that's the case, then I think a counselor or a third, family friend or a child can be called in to even out those rough edges where somebody's not saying I'm going to soar and you can sit here on the ground. That's not the way it
Mm.
is meant to be. Okay. Krish, you
Okay.
want us to stop here now? Okay. Shall we call this meeting to an end? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Gauri.
One
Yeah.
quick thing of the next, our next,
Uh-huh.
our theme for the next time. Quickly tell you, uh, it's a much less serious and painful thing. It is about what kind of legacy you want to leave. What do you want to be remembered for? And it does not have to be only money and property. When people say legacy, that everybody assumes it's money, things, jewelry that you're talking about. But let's look
Mm.
next week at what kind of uh, legacy one can leave, something that you want to be remembered for.
Nice.
Yeah?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Chalo.
Okay.
Bye,
Bye
everybody.
bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for being here.
Bye.